Welcome back, everybody. I'm Tommy McCarthy, and this is Let's Talk Cyber. I'm delighted to welcome the one and only Michael Charles Borrelli. Michael, welcome to Let's Talk Cyber, sir.
Hey, Tommy, good to see you. Thank you so much for having me on, and always happy to talk cyber and AI.
Good stuff, Michael. Listen, before we get into our subject matter, which today is going to get a lot of people thinking, it's the AI Governance World Cup. And we've had a lot of conversations around the concept behind this. I think it's tremendous. Could you give us just a soundbite about AI partners? Who are AI partners, Mike? And more importantly, where have you come from?
So AI Partners is a AI governance software company, and it was started by my partner Sean 6 years ago. We started off as a research outfit, and it's based on Sean's experience of implementing GDPR and managing an IP on a New York Stock Exchange. He then saw the EU AI Act, and it blew his mind because he thought if data is the new oil, and we're GDPR regulated oil, then AI is the combustion engine because its whole utility is driven by processing and ingesting data. So we're now regulating the combustion engine. So we build a platform around this to help people govern AI across the life cycle, primarily identifying, governing, and assessing systems. And to your second question, who am I? Where am I based? I'm always been in regulation and compliance. You sort of did most of my career in the UK financial services sector. And you could say regulation compliance is something which I have both a personal and professional interest in. So one of these people who will happily spend a weekend or needs to be reading up on it.
Funny, actually, because I don't know many people that get excited about regulation, but you're not too dissimilar to my co-director, Irene Coyle, who loves and breathes GDPR, data protection, given her previous role in Police Scotland. So, Mike, we're moving into a regulated world, whether we like it or not. You know, with the whole digital transformation, the digital IDs that's trying to be imposed on us, that whole gambit is digitizing the way we live, think, and breathe. And more importantly, AI is it's the driving force right now. The conversations we're having on a daily basis is all about AI. What do we do? Who do we speak to? What impact is it going to have on the business? So when we started talking, Mike, about the services that you provide and how we could collaborate, and you shared your ideas around the AI Governance World Cup, it really got my attention because I am a big football fan. I have to admit, I don't go into the stadiums and sit there in the cold weather. I do love to watch the World Cup. So I'm really intrigued to spend a bit of time today to understand a little bit more about the AI Governance World Cup, but more importantly, who's really winning the global AI rules game. So when we talk, I think it's a great concept, Mike. So could you give us a little bit of a soundbite about the AI Governance World Cup?
Well, the idea is really simple. It's just how can we bring people together, and how can we bring people together on a subject which, as you touched on, is quite dry, is really difficult to get your heads around, and has a negative connotation. Most people think regulation. So the challenge was, okay, how can we make something which isn't sexy and isn't interesting, sexy and interesting? And I thought, okay, what are the big events coming up? And last year, Sean did an event around Sail, which is a sailing event in Amsterdam, happens every 5 years, and this one happened every 10. So I thought, okay, I'd like to bring something to the table. And I'm like you, I'm a massive football fan. I thought, oh my goodness, the World Cup. The idea came to me when I was watching Davos. The president of FIFA was doing a talk then. I thought, and he mentioned the World Cup because he showed the World Cup board. He had Del Piero there, and he had people, and Arsene Wenger was there. And I thought, okay, wow. And then the stats that blew my mind. This is the biggest World Cup in history. The number of people has gone up from 3 million to 7 million. 150 million people worldwide will watch it, and 500 million people subscribe for tickets. This is big.
Yeah.
So how does this relate to governance, and how do we make sure this isn't just a spin-off of BBC 5 Live? Well,
exactly.
Different countries are putting in different regulations for AI, and they're obviously going to compete, not just on the innovation side, but also how well they're covering different aspects of the regulatory frameworks. The AI Partners actually does reports doing mapping exercises, comparing the strengths of one framework to another. So I thought, okay, if football is two sides playing each other, and then two countries' regulatory frameworks are playing each other, why not bring them together? Thus, AI Governance World Cup. The takeaway from this is it's a World Cup that will compare one country's governance framework versus another. and then we let the audience, so the people who decide. All we do is we present the information, the data as best we can, and then let the community side to make it a really inclusive and engaging exercise.
So why do you think AI governance would need a World Cup? Is it purely because, as you've already identified, admitted, governance isn't the most exciting subject, it's a requirement in the business world just now, but why do you suppose AI governance needs something like a World Cup? Why do you think that would be necessary?
Well, a couple of reasons. One, I think people get disenfranchised. AI again has a lot of negative sides of being purported and promulgated in the media, and I think it's about uniting peoples. A lot of people like football, others don't, but I think it's people unite around sport. Why does it need a World Cup? I guess to raise awareness and also to gamify. I think if you look at if you gamify things, I think neuroscience and studies have shown that it resonates with people more and they remember it. And it makes it feel fun. If things are boring and turgid, then no one remembers it. It's like, oh goodness me, I've got another tick box exercise, compliance. I do that at work. If you can make it fun, if you can make it interactive and make them feel part of the process, so very much a B2C type of mentality, I think they'll remember it. And it's the challenge is, if you can make people think regulation is fun and be part of it, I think that's an awesome.
So let's dig deep then, Mike. Let's go into the
Yes.
nuts and bolts. What is the AI Governance World Cup? Give me the scenario. What are you expecting to create here?
So what you're expecting to create is country report sort of each country, and then we use standard metrics for each. We look at the around data practices, around ethics, and then we present these reports to the community, and then they vote which one they think is stronger. The UK has a very principles-based, quite fluid approach, which I liken more to a Pep Guardiola type, versus the quite rules-based, rigid approach of Croatia. I then liken to Jose Mourinho. So those of the classic El Clasicos of the past that may resonate with. As you present this, you give the strengths or weaknesses of or you do an analysis of both countries against those pillars, and then you allow people to vote on which one they think would win overall. And how they vote is some people may prefer a more rules-based approach or prescriptive. Some people may prefer a more innovative, fluid approach. But ultimately, I think it's just to present the information in an objective way and then let the community decide.
How do you see these AI Governance World Cup matches actually working?
So it wouldn't be like it wouldn't be like an interactive thing like this. I think it would be more of, we present the reports, we present a synopsis of each country's strengths, and then put a vote out. They could vote on social media or something like this, and you say, this is what this country has done, these are their strengths and weaknesses, this is what they're missing, this is what they have, and then you say, okay, for this metric, who wins? Assign a score. So you'd go pillar by pillar, examining one country against another in like a live voting scenario, and then you would put the score, and then overall you'd add up the total, and then you'd say, okay, if England got 4 and then Croatia got 5, I use those example figures, then Croatia would win overall.
So how would you align this concept to an actual World Cup? Because that's what I'm trying to get my head around just now. And I see,
Yes.
obviously, this is going to appeal primarily to people in governance, in regulation. So how would we align this to an actual World Cup to make it a little bit more broader, make it more broader to the wider population?
So I think alignment can happen in 3 ways. 1, it happens during the World Cup, so there's timing alignment. 2, we try and match real teams, real matches. So England-Croatia is a real game happening, so it's good there. And 3, even if there are teams that are not playing each other in terms of real world scheduling, we can still match them up together. So you could still say England versus France, even though they're not in the same group, you could still compare them. I think what would be good for that is to maybe do a vote at the upcoming Cyber London event and just see which matches people would like to see, because we could do anything. We could map Oman versus Bahrain if we wanted to.
Yeah, and you'll definitely be aware of the fact that a lot of business is done around sporting events. The World Cup, there'll be a lot of hospitality, golf. We as a company have started using golf games, for hospitality for clients, because it's a great mechanism for doing business. But this AI Governance World Cup, what does it mean for businesses and policymakers? How can we sort of show a value? Is there a way we can show a value by the outcomes that you're hoping to create from the AI Governance World Cup?
Yes, I think firstly, it's the awareness. I think a lot of people want to show legacy matters and they want to show that it's not just another regulation, and a lot of work and time that people are put in is being recognized too, that it actually stimulates thought and debate. I think there's a lot of criticism, certainly in some of the meetings and talks that I have. People don't feel that the representative or the views are heard. So if we give people, quite literally anyone can participate, taking this, it then shows that it's another way of getting that feedback. And thirdly, it may actually bring to light certain things we haven't thought about. You even may see, okay, this is what France are doing. Maybe England/the UK could use this, or maybe this upcoming law is covering something we haven't thought about, and it could be quite good research gathering exercise. I mean, put it this way, if we get at least a fraction of the 150 million people who are going to watch this could watch the World Cup, it could, it's another way of engaging a topic which is quite esoteric or limited in terms of participation.
So let's have a look at some of the insights. Give us a few insights, Mike, into the kind of patterns and something of intrigue that will come out of this particular concept. Can you give me an insight into some more granular detail?
I think so what I've done these mapping exercises before, I think it's brought to light that there are various different ways of looking at this, various different lenses and perspectives. Certainly when I've done these things and I looked at other people's thought, it's actually made me think, okay, I haven't questioned this, maybe I should interrogate it more. So it's actually given me more perspective. In terms of granular details, I can only think, or maybe you could say, okay, let's have a look at what the EU Commission is doing. They've set a threshold of 10 to the power of 25 flops to determine if a general purpose AI model is systemic risk or not. And different jurisdictions may not have a threshold. They may have a higher or lower threshold. And you could say, okay, I know for the US, for example, I think they have 10 to the power of 23. So I could say, why is the United States, why do they have 10 to the power of 23? And why is the EU got 10 to the power of 25? So you could match and interrogate those very, very granular details and determine what's more appropriate. And even things like who's in scope. So some jurisdictions may cover, I think the EU covers providers, deployers, authorized representatives, distributors, importers, and authorized representatives. And other jurisdictions may only cover providers and deployers.
Okay, I see. So obviously we've been talking a lot about the different AI strategies and standards that there are globally, because people seem to be paying a lot more attention to how they're going to regulate, control, and ethically monitor the use and misuse of AI, more so than anything else. It took health and safety almost 30 years to get traction in general industry to be recognized as a set of rules, a set of standards that people must adhere to. Data protection, GDPR, we saw the rhetoric with the implementation of GDPR, but I see a different approach to AI because of the uncertainty about what AI is going to do to industry and to your business. So regulations generated around AI seem to be making a little bit more progress much quicker, especially as we've already identified in the Middle East. There seems to be a lot of traction. What I'm leading to, Mike, is a bit of a call to action before we wrap this one up. What kind of call to action could you really give our listeners to consider? More so, let's look at it around our AI Governance World Cup. What kind of call to action can you give me just to summarize this short podcast?
I'd say start looking what your country is doing to regulate AI and start thinking, and also if you're a business, start looking at what other countries are doing, especially if you have cross-border operations and how it may affect you. So you mentioned GDPR, the same way it affects you if you have cross-border operations, and maybe use the Governance World Cup as a way to get employees engaged. From an employer perspective, when you do training, some people are definitely they turn off. But if you can keep them engaged with respect to getting them involved in the World Cup, even if they don't like football, I think people just like that positivity, energy, the ambience that it gives, and people feel part of something. If England win or don't win, they probably won't, to be honest. At least they're part of the process. And then if people are part of the process and they learn, again, human psychology shows that they're more likely to do stuff, they're more likely to be involved. And who knows how many ideas you can unlock just because the World Cup is on. I'm massively prejudiced here because I'm a massive football fan, but I do believe that the World Cup, you can pretty much ask anyone where they were when Ronaldinho, for example, scored that free kick that equalized Michael Owen's goal in 2002, and they would remember.
Yeah.
People remember.
Yeah.
So we want to remember.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right, actually. It is about making the comparisons and taking people back in time. But we're in a space right now in our working lives, in the world in general, where AI is moving at such a phenomenal rate that it's going to be really hard to keep up, to stay on top of all of the issues that we must consider. We've just been playing about with the latest Chat GPT caricature software that they've got, uploading pictures and letting a chat GPT create caricatures of us. And it's doing it literally within 10, 15 seconds. It's crazy to see how rapid AI is taking over the world. I guess closing line, Mike, is something you said to me, actually, that in football, the best team wins on the pitch. But in AI governance, the best framework wins in the real world. Have you got a frame, without being biased, I'm not asking you to make a commercial decision. Is there a framework out there right now globally that you think is ticking just about every box when it comes to AI governance to better understand what people should be considering? Is there one particular framework, without being biased, Mike, because I know there's a distinct possibility EU might slip in here, but give us an example. Yeah, give me an example of your top three. There you go. Takes the pressure off. In no particular order.
Well, maybe I'll go bottom up. I would say the third, I would probably say the OECD's AI principles. I think they were the foundation for a lot of the more formal frameworks and laws and regulations we're seeing today, and they're pretty broad in nature. Secondly, you have the NIST AI risk management framework. So this is more of managing risk, and they compartmentalize into 4 sections: map, measure, monitor. I can't remember the other one. But it's very good to map your activities against that, and it's produced by NIST, so they're specialists in technology in that sense. And then, of course, the EU AI Act, because it was the world's first regulation for comprehensive law on this. It's also risk-based, which means that it's not outlawing every AI, and that is a conception. All it does is it means every AI is assigned a risk level, and then the risk level determines how you treat it. And the best thing to do is, and this is how, for anyone, if you're familiar with KYC, know your client.
Yes.
KYAI, know your AI system. That is it. All it is KYAI. Just okay, if you're using a model or whichever algorithm prompt you're using, what is it? What's the risk level? And then you move ahead. Because if you have a high risk, Article 15, then you have to put all the cyber stuff in place, which I guess you guys will have a fun time doing.
Yeah, well, it's funny, Mike, actually, and I didn't mean to put you on the spot, because I am curious as to your own opinion on regulation, on the different strategies and sort of compliance standards that are out there. I do know that most of the Middle Eastern GCC countries have adopted the NIST framework as the basis for creating their own AI strategies. Obviously, some are much more comprehensive than others, and we've shared a few between each other. So you can see, so it really is interesting to see that still the American approach to regulated AI is definitely having a bit more traction in the Middle East, and might explain why it is that, the US, Donald Trump, has just recently signed a colossal agreement to build huge AI concept community in the I think it's Abu Dhabi, actually, like a Stargate sort of AI community. So with any expansion comes the need to understand how we manage AI within the workplace. It's fair to say. So regulations, I think, are going to become absolutely de facto requirements no matter what you do now in AI. I think you've got to have to monitor how you expand your business based on the regulations that may have an impact on what you do in that space. So I think we're going to be spending a lot of time together over the next few years, brainstorming, working together on different projects. Charles Borrelli, thank you so much for joining me on Let's Talk Cyber.
Let's Talk Cyber. Thank you so much.